Part 1. For Family. This story began at China, Hainan, where my great-grandparents began their life there and grown up there. Soon enough, they fell in love to each other, and they decided to move to Malaya, Perak for living. My great-grandfather owned a hectare of land there, and he self-plantation for living. My great-grandfather was very rich that time. My great-grandparents happened to give birth to 12 kids. 7 of them were guys, and 5 of them were girls. My grandfather was third in the family. My grandparents was arranged marriage. My grandfather was a lorry driver at that time, and he happened to drive lorry every day. He fetched fruits for living. Money wasn't enough at that time because my great grandfather have 12 kids, and he doesn't get enough money for his living. When my grandfather has enough money, he and my grandmother gave birth to 5 kids, 5 boys and 3 girls. My grandfather got invited to Perak, KL for work. He started a business there, and when he get enough money, he sent his money back to Perak. He moved back to KL by time, and when he got enough money, he moved back to Perak. And my father was big enough to earn money. He wanted to grow a lot of money, so he moved to KL. So my grandfather was invited to a motor shop repairing motors. And then one of my father's friends invited him to Singapore for timber business. So my father said, okay. First, he go to Singapore and earn enough money for timber. He came back to Malaysia, and yeah, he earned a lot of steel there, and he came back to Malaysia to start a business there. So he and my mother met and gave birth to me. My father and my mother started a business, and it grows bigger and bigger. My father and mother then gave birth to 3 of my brothers. The business go bigger and bigger. So my economy from average going up a bit by bit. So as conclusion, my great grandparents gave birth to 7 kids, 7 guys and 5 girls. My grandparents gave birth to 5 guys and 3 girls, and they gave birth to 4 kids. That's the end.
Part 2. Lam family, which is my family. My great-grandparents would come from Xinhui at first with 3 kids, 3 boys, 3 brothers. After that, they migrate to Hong Kong, Wong Kok. My great-grandfather was working as chef in one restaurant. After a few years later, my granddad and my grandparents decided to leave Hong Kong, and they left their elder son, and they came to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. After that, they work as a chef as well beside the road, and assist by two child. 2 years later, they own a restaurant which called Lam's Restaurant, and there's much more bigger compared to the previous one. And my grandparents meet each other, and they fall in love just in the shop. After 1 year later, they give birth to 7 child, and my dad was the second one. After 2 years later, my restaurant was bankrupt, and all my granddad money was lost, and he working as a small mobile hawker store. After 21 years later, my dad graduated from university, and he decided to look for work, and he going to Johor to look for some work. He met my mother at Johor. Few years later, they came back from Johor to KL, and they give birth to us, three of us, my sister, brother, and me. My economy was rising up and become more moderate,